I want to start with some comments that Ochocinco made over the weekend. He was on the Nightcap podcast with Shannon Sharpe and had a bit of a Freudian slip mentioning the specific player he had talked to, but he said that's not the only player he had spoken with about Shedeur Sanders. So this is Ochocinco talking to Shannon Sharpe about a conversation he had with a Browns player regarding the Browns' rookie quarterback.
What happens when one of the NFL's elite cornerbacks breaks the code of silence and accidentally reveals what's really happening behind closed doors in Cleveland? Denzel Ward wasn't supposed to say the name. Chad Ochocinco Johnson wasn't supposed to let it slip on live television. But when you're watching a fifth-round rookie quarterback do things that make seasoned veterans stop and stare, sometimes the truth just spills out. The whispers from inside the Browns facility are getting louder, and what they're saying about Shedeur Sanders might just change everything you thought you knew about this quarterback battle. This isn't just hype. This is coming from players who face elite quarterbacks every single day, and they're all saying the same thing. He looks different. Let me paint you a picture of what went down on Shannon Sharpe's Nightcap podcast that has the entire Browns organization scrambling. Ochocinco is sitting there, casual as ever, talking about his conversations with Browns players about
it. Now, I got a couple of young bulls out there. I talked to Denzel Ward. I talked to some, but I can't say the name. But anyway, I done talked to some people. He looked different. There's a difference when that young bull is out there spinning that ball. You hear me? Mm-hmm. Difference. I'm talking about football. I ain't talking about no media and all that hoopla and all them, on Twitter, they putting up the numbers. Some he was 10 for 12 for 2 touchdowns. I'm talking about when he's at the helm, he looks different. Whether he's going with the first team, second team, or third team, it don't matter. I understand getting drafted in the 5th round. All that means nothing when it's time to play football and that whistle blows. He looks different than the rest of the competition. That's what I heard. And I'm talking
rookie quarterback. Everything's going smooth until he drops this bombshell. I got a couple of young bulls out there. I talked to Denzel Ward. And then it happens. The moment that changes everything. Ochocinco realizes what he just did. I can't say the name. But it's too late. The cat's out of the bag. Denzel Ward, one of the Browns' most respected defensive players, a guy who's faced Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and every elite quarterback in the league, has been talking to former NFL players about what he's seeing from Shedeur Sanders in practice. But here's where it gets really interesting. What Ochocinco says next should send chills down the spine of every Browns fan who's been waiting for a franchise quarterback. He looked different. There's a difference when that young bull is out there spinning that ball. You hear me? I'm talking about football. I ain't talking about no media and all that hoopla. When he's at the helm, he looks different, whether you go with the first team, second team, or third team. It don't matter. Think about what that means for a second. We're not talking about some rookie getting praise for completing basic throws in practice. We're talking about a 5th-round pick who's making such an impression that veteran players are reaching out to media personalities to talk about what they're witnessing. That doesn't happen by accident. But wait, there's something even more shocking here that nobody's talking about. Ochocinco makes it crystal clear that Ward isn't the only one. I understand getting drafted in the 5th round. All that means nothing when it's time to play football and that whistle blows. He looks different than the rest of the competition. That's what I heard, and I'm talking from sources that's in that room, that's on that field, that's playing the sport. Multiple sources, multiple players, all saying the same thing about a guy who wasn't even supposed to be in this conversation 6 months ago. Now, let's dig into what this really means. Zach Jackson reported.
If he's not on their rosters, you hear a bunch of people talking about how Jackson Darty's struggling or any of these other people are struggling and doing whatever the case may be. But for me, I'm taking it from what I looked at last year. I looked at the film. I watched all his games. I said, I think this guy can throw the ball and I think he can play. He's came out this offseason and done nothing that has been different than I thought he was going to do and continue to do. So, look, it's just all about timing, opportunity, and when he gets a chance to get the opportunity, still performing. So I'm not surprised at all.
Kurt Warner said it. Bernie Kosar, a Browns legend who knows what quarterback play looks like in Cleveland. He's saying it too. Drew Bledsoe, a guy who's been in the trenches with elite quarterbacks. He's seeing something special. But here's the reality check that should terrify Browns fans. If Sanders is really this impressive, why isn't he getting first-team reps? According to the podcast, he's currently sitting at 4th on the depth chart. 4th, behind Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson. The conspiracy theorists are already working overtime. Is this by design? Are the Browns intentionally keeping their potential franchise quarterback away from first-team reps to avoid the media circus? Or is there something they're not telling us? Here's what we know. Sanders has gotten 0 first-team reps during OTAs and mandatory minicamp. 0. For a guy who's supposedly making veterans stop and take notice. That's either strategic genius or organizational malpractice. The hosts of The Ultimate Cleveland Sports show break it down perfectly. One theory suggests the Browns are protecting Sanders from early exposure, making sure that when he does get his shot, nobody can say he didn't earn it. Because guess what? It's minicamps. And you can say when he does start and he does get an opportunity, there will be nobody or no detractor can look at you in your face and say he did not earn it. And here's where this story takes a dark turn that Browns fans need to hear. Remember last year? Remember week after week of Kevin Stefanski standing in front of cameras saying Deshaun Watson gives us the best chance to win? Remember how that worked out? The Browns coaching staff's credibility took a massive hit, and now fans are wondering, should we even trust them when they tell us who gives the team the best chance to win? One of the podcast hosts puts it bluntly, should I lose faith in the organization for whoever made that decision to say he gives us the best chance to win? When every single fan in the Browns fan base, they didn't miss by a little last year, they missed by a mile. That's the context Sanders is walking into. A coaching staff that lost credibility, a fan base that's been burned before, and a quarterback room where nobody has proven they deserve to be the starter. But here's what makes Sanders different from every other quarterback controversy in Cleveland. The players actually want to see him succeed. Compare that to last year when, according to the podcast, the players were fed up with Deshaun and it didn't matter. They were playing Deshaun. The difference is night and day. Instead of players quietly hoping their quarterback gets benched, you have respected veterans like Denzel Ward actively talking to media members about how impressive the rookie looks to so what happens next? This is where things get really interesting. Training camp is coming. Joint practices with Philadelphia and Carolina are scheduled for August. Those aren't glorified scrimmages. Those are real football situations where opposing teams are trying to separate your soul from your body. The podcast hosts are clear about what they want to see. I hope he gets reps against the starting defense. For Carolina, I know they won't do this, but I'd love if they would say Sanders preseason game number 1. It's all you. The whole game. Think about the pressure that creates. If Sanders really is as impressive as these veterans are claiming, he's going to have to prove it against NFL caliber competition that's actively trying to make him fail. No more practice squad heroes. No more controlled environments. Real football. But here's the million-dollar question that's keeping Browns fans awake at night. What if Sanders really is different? What if all these whispers and reports are true? What if the Browns actually found their franchise quarterback in the 5th round while everyone else was overthinking the position? The numbers don't lie about what happened last year. The Browns went through quarterbacks like a revolving door. Watson couldn't stay healthy or effective. Joe Flacco had moments but couldn't sustain success. The entire season was a disaster. At the most important position in football, now you have a rookie who's making such an impression that veteran players are breaking protocol to talk about it. You have former NFL quarterbacks and current analysts all saying the same thing. You have a coaching staff that's either being incredibly strategic or incredibly stubborn about his development. Here's what nobody wants to admit, but everyone's thinking that if Sanders is really this impressive, the Browns might have accidentally stumbled into the solution they've been searching for since they returned to Cleveland. A 5th-round pick who can actually play the position at an NFL level would be the ultimate redemption story for an organization that's made mistake after mistake at quarterback. But it also raises uncomfortable questions. How did 31 other teams pass on him multiple times? How did the Browns' own front office not see enough to draft him higher? And most importantly, how long before the pressure becomes too much to ignore? The podcast hosts make it clear that they don't think player input should determine who starts. I think at the end of the day, it matters zero. I really do. The coaches are going to sit down together. They're going to evaluate everything and pick the starter. But they also acknowledge that when a player makes spectacular plays against elite competition, that's when opinions really matter. If Myles Garrett is rushing and he pump fakes, Garrett jumps up in the air, tries to knock the ball down Shedeur Sanders gets outside and throws a back shoulder fade on Denzel Ward and Jamari Thrash for a touchdown in the corner end zone on perfect play. That's when player input counts. So here's where we stand heading into training camp. You have a 5th-round rookie who's impressing veterans. You have multiple credible sources saying he looks different from the competition. You have a coaching staff that's either protecting him or ignoring him. And you have a fan base that's desperate for any sign of hope at the quarterback position. The timeline is clear. By August, when those joint practices begin, we'll know if Sanders is really ready for NFL competition. By the time preseason games start, we'll see if he can handle real game pressure. And by week 1, we'll know if the Browns have finally found their answer or if this is just another false hope in a long line of quarterback disasters. But here's what makes this different from every other Browns quarterback story: the players' belief. When Denzel Ward, a guy who faces elite quarterbacks twice a year and knows what real NFL talent looks like, when he's telling people that Sanders looks different, that means something. The question isn't whether Sanders has talent. Multiple credible sources have confirmed that. The question is whether the Browns organization has learned from their mistakes and will give him the opportunity to prove it when it matters. One thing's for certain: the whispers are getting louder. The pressure is building. And whether the Browns want to admit it or not, they might have their franchise quarterback sitting 4th on the depth chart right now. What do you think? Is Shedeur Sanders really the answer Cleveland has been searching for? Or is this just another case of training camp hero syndrome? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Are you ready to see what this kid can do when the lights come on? Or should the Browns stick with their veterans? Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because this quarterback battle is just getting started, and you don't want to miss what happens when Sanders finally gets his shot to prove all these veterans right. The truth always comes out in the NFL. And if Denzel Ward is right about what he's seeing, Cleveland might be about to witness something special.